the kids are old enough to see their father he shamed himself?
Yes, so he posted on Instagram, he came clean, he said he had been cheating on his wife and that he failed to live up to the standards of...
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Blair Book. You know what time it is. Talking to you guys about the Lentz situation. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Pastor of Hillsong has been found out to have been cheating on his wife with a mistress. But we just want to talk about, obviously, cheating. I think it's one of the things, again, I want to break some things down for you guys as well going forward. So guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of the what? Uploads. And for those of you returning as well, you got the minerals, you got the minerals. All right, don't forget as well, grab your merchandise as well, guys. All right, cool. All right, so just talking about, obviously, the Lentz situation. If you don't know him, he's a famous pastor for Hillsong. He was friends with Justin Bieber. You saw with Oprah. He was mixing a lot with the celebrity lifestyle you see in America at the moment. And, I mean, he had set up a branch in New York, Hillsong Church, which was quite popular. Had the likes of Kylie Jenner and I don't know, Courtney as well, who attended, and there's a few other people, Selena Gomez. A lot of celebrities had attended his church. Okay, this guy was very well known in the circuit. Okay, now unfortunately, it's come out. The information has come out that he cheated on his actual wife, and I think one of the interesting part about this particular thing is that, you know, whenever we hear stories like this, similar like to John Gray's situation, there is obviously the uproar of how can he do this, da 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 da, right? But the thing about these situations is this: that men like Lentz are in positions of power.
Lentz is a pastor at the mega church called Hillsong, which is a big church that really became known for kind of its modern ways.
Now, when we talk about, obviously, what makes somebody attractive, what makes somebody compelling, what makes someone have that feeling of being drawn in, one of the things that it is the illusion of power, or status, I should say, right? And so when women are looking at men, they see status, they look at power, they look at financial resources, they look at, obviously, how good looking you are, yes, but most importantly, they see what platform of influence does he have. And I think you've heard me say this as before as well. Women are also interested, a lot of them are interested in worship. And I don't mean worship of God, I mean them being worshipped. There's a lot of us as well. That's why we have our Instagrams. We like the little bit of the following, right? And so when women are looking at people like Lentz, they see a mass of a platform, they see the stage, they see also as well the ability that he has to move mountains, literally, okay? And so he becomes attractive because he's now the eye that everybody looks upon. And so this is a thing called social proofing. Pastors are always in danger of this. In fact, pastors, musicians, worship leaders are always going to be, anytime you're in a position of leadership, you're going to be in trouble. Why? Because you're now the person facing the audience. Whenever we create leaders like that, where they face the audience, there's always going to be trouble, because that person is now facing the people and they are now the focal point. Everybody listens to the focal point. That's power, that's status, okay? And so when that happens, women will be drawn to that person simply because they want a taste of that power and that status.
In the world, hundreds of thousands of members. Bieber is one of the members, Selena Gomez, Kourtney Kardashian, the Jenners, so a big celebrity follow.
Okay, this is not giving him an admission. This is explaining the woman's side of things. And then obviously Lentz himself, the Bible gives us an example, I believe, in James 1 verse 14 to 15, it says, but each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it fully grown, brings forth death. Let's just bring that first part. But each person is tempted when he's lured and enticed, lured and enticed by his own desire. Every individual human being, when it comes to cheating, has their own desire. So if you can't blame somebody else, and it's similar to what happened to David. He had a desire for Bathsheba. No one else put it in him. He had it himself. Okay, and then when that desire is conceived, right, then it gives birth to sin. So when Carl Lentz went to cheat, it was a desire that was in him. Listen, every man's going to be tempted. Yeah, the girls that are coming your way, and this is one thing you have to understand. When you're in a position of power, like Carl Lentz, in fact, you don't even go out to find them; they find you. Okay, and that's what makes it so much more difficult. I think we did a video recently talking about how men shouldn't be applauded for infidelity or shouldn't be applauded for for not cheating. And we don't have to applaud them. We're not going to applaud men for not cheating. But what we're saying here is that, there is a huge wind that comes your way when you are the pastor. Okay, now when you're pastor's wife, the wind doesn't come the same way, yeah. But when you're the pastor, the head focal point, women are looking at you some way. They want to take you down. Okay, and so this temptation that Carl unfortunately found himself into, the position of power and status and influence is tempting to others, but also because you're in that position, you're gonna need sound character. And this is something that's very hard to grasp when you are collecting fame and celebrity and you have money and you have power. It can become very different, especially if you're in an environment where, if you don't have sound counsel, which he said in his video, he said, listen, he ran out of steam basically because he didn't have the people that would feed him to be able to keep him strong. And that's often the truth. Let's see, that's what the Bible says, faith cometh by hearing. What you're hearing is going to dictate your faith. It's going to give you strength to keep on walking the path you're walking. Good company corrupts good morale. Good company corrupts, or I should say, good company influences good morale, but bad company corrupts good morale. And so, the people around you are going to help feed this narrative to help you stay on track. It's difficult sometimes because this it's difficult in the sense of the fact that I'm not going to talk much about it, whether he was a good pastor or not, whether he was celebrity too much or anything. We're talking about relationships here. And I think I've heard some commentary say, like, how can he cheat on, his wife is so stunning. It don't make a difference. Beyonce got cheated on. Listen, nobody is immune. Cheating isn't about how good looking your wife is or how good looking your husband is. It's about the fact that you have a desire. And the desire is going to be conceived if you give into it. If you feed it enough, the desire will come to life. And so what happens in these relationships is that we are and this is funny because I used to do another video on Boris Kojo and Nicole Parker Ari. She says, a little bit of flirt.
People that flirt with you, and the part of the flirtation doesn't make you necessarily go wayward, but part of the flirtation,
and it doesn't really hurt. Yes, it does, because it is desire being fulfilled, and then there's another step which will take another desire, another step, another desire, another step, and eventually before you realize that you are somewhere you shouldn't be. Right? And so these things about cheating when you're in positions of power come because desires are festering, but they're not being managed. So you hear a guy in the Bible called Joseph who says, I cannot do this, not against you, but against the God that I serve. Because actually, truly and truly, loyalty to man is very short-sighted. And so it's got to be a loyalty to God, and that will help you be faithful to your partner. It's when you're willing to disobey God, and that will then lead to the disloyalty to your partner. I sympathize with anybody who's in a position of leadership, because you are going to be tested. And if you've not been molded in your character, you've not been molded in your in the way that you think and your mindsets, you easily gonna fall prey to the situation. I think I was watching a video with Wendy Williams, and they were talking about what potentially the mistress had been said. But I want to just, before I even go to that part, what's really interesting for me is when you're in a position like a pastor, right, you also lack the ability of having counsel, because you're scared sometimes, right? You don't know who's around you, don't know what they will say. You're now a celebrity pastor. Anything you do say can be used against you in the court of law, kind of thing, will be used against you in the newspaper. And so then you become trapped in yourself. And a lot of these people who are in position of power like this pastoral are trapped within their own minds, and then they use these other women to kind of then free themselves to be able to express how they feel. So you probably find out he's probably expressed his heart's feeling and everything like that to this mistress, but didn't do it to his wife because he felt like he was trapped. But actually he had to confess these things to the wife. You're gonna have to have an open, really deep conversation about the things that you're feeling in order to save your marriage, rather than doing it and then going after, I felt trapped. Because ain't nobody trying to feel that after you've cheated on me. Oh, you felt trapped, but why didn't you come and tell me then? You know, so for anybody watching this, it's important that we learn from this. What is it that we need to learn? We need to learn that, listen, when you are trapped inside your mind, when you feel like, listen, there's nowhere else to turn, it's seemingly, I still got to be able to communicate with my partner. I cannot leave my partner in the shadows, because what will happen is I will turn elsewhere. It's why I think many people don't like people crying on someone else's shoulder, because like when you do, you build a certain connection with that person, and you begin to confess certain things to that person, and I call it emotional adultery. When you begin to share your emotions and how you feel with another party before you do your partner, when it concerns your partner, then you're emotionally cheating. You are emotionally cheating. It's called emotional adultery, and you're not giving your partner the benefit of the doubt to hear you first, decipher how you're feeling, and then you can come say to your friend or say to another person of the opposite sex. Like, do you know what I mean? It's important to do that. Not only that as well, you know, obviously, I know Hillsong obviously kind of, you know, said they're going to let him go due to moral failures. I think something.
And this is what they said. They were firing him over, quote, leadership issues, breaches of trust, and moral failures.
Something's odd about that, right? Moral failures, because most there's a lot of people who have pastors who have cheated and they have not been asked to be let go. So I don't know if there's something deeper about the New York branch. Maybe there's some beef there. Then again, I saw in the Sun newspaper, however you can trust the Sun newspaper, that this has been going on for a little while. This is not a one-time affair. This is not shallow. This has been happening for a few years, and actually, people have been coming forward to speak about this inappropriate relationships that the Carl Lentz has been having. So maybe that's contributed to it. All I know is that, you know, these relationships that you're having outside of your actual marriage are always due to because of your own selfish desire. This is not to cuss him and to break him down, but to let you know, if you have a selfish desire and you don't get a grip of it, you know what I'm saying, and you don't be real with yourself and say, hey, actually, do you know what, this is not appropriate, you're gonna cause yourself a lot of pain. And that's what I was saying about Boris Kodjoe and Nicole Ari Parker. Ari Parker was saying about the flirting a little bit. You know, she wants to feel like she's single again. It's like, yo, sis, you keep talking like that, you are going to be single, because you're speaking life into your situation that you want to be single, rather than really addressing the actual issue. There's a problem here. It's not as fresh as it used to be, and you want it to be fresh. Just say that. Yeah. You know, and I obviously what was said in a video with Wendy Williams, that he had told the girl that, you know, God had told him that to tell her that she was, you know, that God said she's special. You know, they apparently, you know, didn't stop having sex until the last week. You know, he got caught out by the fact that, you know, messages on his phone were connected to his, you know, church laptop, church computer. It's like, yo, bro, like, it's not looking good at all, bro. But what's really interesting is that, again, these affairs, okay, that people, these men of God be having, these affairs, okay, they are substituting something, right? The sex is just the cherry on the top. Like it's not often that the bad sex was happening in the bedroom. Oftentimes it's to do with the fact that emotional care was being, you know, neglected. And there was a lack of communication of what my emotional needs were. And therefore, then I stepped out and then called it, oh, I needed sex. Really, oftentimes, not the sex. Sex is just the last thing. Maybe you were lacking intimacy. Yeah? Maybe you were lacking a form of intimacy in your relationship, and therefore it looked and perceived itself like, oh, I needed sex. When really actually we're looking for was a form of intimacy that you're confusing with sex. Okay, so guys, you know, again, in your relationships, please keep having these conversations. Remember, communication, but comprehension. Communicate effectively. Get your point across in the most polite, loving manner. How you'd want it to be done to you, do it the exact same way. You know, apparently they had sex, goodbye sex the week before, and he didn't really come out with the apology until he was caught. And this is going to hurt more, because I'm telling you now, when they go for the counseling, by the grace of God, they do go for counseling, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. And it's going to be painful having to relive those moments. But also as well, he's going to need to take time, you know, allow her to adjust and allow her to also feel. And she probably got some cusses ready for him. You know what I mean? But it's going to need to happen in order for their relationship to actually thrive and survive. So, yeah, I mean, I don't celebrate people falling. I don't celebrate people moral failures. Like, this is not necessary to celebrate. But what we do have to understand is that, you know, irrespective of whether, you know, you were a pastor or anything like that. Anybody can be tempted. And when you listen to those desires, the desires of the flesh, and you give in, you are going to find yourself in a place like this. When pride cometh, a fall is coming. When pride is the absence of God, it's removing God from the equation, saying, I've got this. I can handle this. Right? When you say that, you're about to fall. Yeah? When you say, I don't need God in this, you're about to fall. So, yeah, I mean, apparently his mistress was hurt by his own Instagram message that he put on there. And that's why she said her piece on The Sun, apparently. But we don't really know 100% until more information comes out. But what I would say is that, guys, please, be careful. We all have desires. We all have tempestuous thoughts. But it's when you give in, it's when you conceive them, then death will come, which is that sin begins to operate, which means destruction is coming. Destruction of what kind? Your relationship, their emotions, their trust in you, right? So yeah, guys, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, and you click on that bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate you. Stay locked, stay